Have you ever met somebody for the first time and as you're getting to know each other, you start talking about music and look at that, you like some of the same bands. Like, dude, that's so cool that we're both in the top 0.0000001% of King Crimson Gooners on Spotify. Like that's crazy. That's awesome. So then you start feeling confident and you ask the big question. Do you like ska? And this is usually followed up with one of two responses. One, they will justifiably ask you, what the hell is ska? Or two, no, ska sucks. Then you retreat back to your apartment and you cry on your floor listening to Hello Rockview, wondering why the world is so cold. But we can't take it to heart like that, though. After all, music is subjective. But if that's true, then how come so much of it gets labeled as bad? Almost as if we're too stupid to realize it for ourselves and we gotta go to a rehab for bad music tastes. I'm Jerry Bees, and today I want to dive into this concept of what makes music bad, what qualifies as bad music, some of the bad music that I personally love, and why I won't be spending life after death in heaven as a result. I think before we get into what people commonly agree on as being bad music, I need to make a personal differentiation between bad music and music that I just don't like. For example, I really don't like a lot of the 2010s pop punk stuff. Joyce Manor, Wonder Years, Front Bottom, Modern Baseball. Stop. Really, any band whose fans wore these shirts, and yes, I'm not making this up, this was a real thing that people wore, and probably even still do. Yes, I know these were ironic, but my seething when I saw this at shows was very, very genuine. Still, a lot of these bands and bands that fall a little bit more into the Midwest emo side of things, where math rock instrumentation is not only legitimate, but valid. Hell, I even kind of respect it. No, I'm talking about the usual group of suspects here, right? Nickleback, Insane Clown Posse, Ghost, Limp Bizkit, Kiss, hell, even Taylor Swift and Sleep Token are often touted as being the absolute worst, or at least criminally overrated and applauded. Like, who the hell are these putzes just looking over their Last.fm stats and making sure that there's a proportional amount to avant-garde and weird music to normie music before they post it on their Instagram stories? Just pleasuring themselves over the fact that they wouldn't be caught dead listening to MGK. In trying to find commonalities between any of these bands or artists that most often get labeled as being bad, I think we can pull a couple threads that gives us some insight as to why playing any of their songs at a party will make you look lame as shit. You can't make everybody happy, and that's especially true with music. It seems like the bands that most people agree on being good have been able to walk this incredibly tightrope of balancing accessibility and pioneering. And I think for this example, look no further than the Beatles. I know, it's the easiest and most shallow example, but it's true. Their music at face value isn't really all that incredible. Most of it is pop rock that you can tap your foot to and maybe hum around the house or on your way to go buy a vape or something. But they kept the pioneering largely to recording and production and in how they composed their more experimental work in a way that didn't alienate large portions of the general public. On the flip side, we have Nickelback. Riff heavy, look at this photograph, insert the theme song to Monday Night Raw, sell out arenas and make shitloads of money, and it's easy to see why. Most of these songs have the same 4 chords that you hear in every other song, but these guys bring a slightly heavier edge to things. That's their bag. It's accessible, but not very challenging. There's little room for introspection, authenticity, or experimentation when seemingly the goal is just to generate revenue. And I think a more clear example of this would be Kiss. Look, Strutter and Detroit Rock City are bangers, flat out. If I was a little Gen X boomer in the 70s, I would have been all over this shit and my parents would go all satanic panic on me. But had those parents actually listened to what these proto-ICP goons were putting out, I really hope they would understand that it's the middest shit of all time. But they got Kiss lunchboxes and Kiss caskets and Kiss condoms and Kiss cars and Kiss military juntas. There's so much Kiss for me to spend money on. Kiss is a cultural cornerstone. I'm not going to make an argument that they aren't. But this blatant shilling and gaudy pageantry in front of the bare requirements for rock and roll settles them into the bad camp with less struggle than maybe some other artists. When you have massive stars who are at the top of their game and shooting into the cultural zeitgeist at breakneck speeds, a lot of people are going to have high expectations, especially if the reputations of these artists alone precedes any kind of familiarization that you have with their body of work. And there's 2 current cases that I want to pick apart a little bit. I'm going to make this quick as to not create a black hole in my office here right now, but I think Taylor Swift fits perfectly into this category. And trust me, I am very qualified to speak on such matters. Taylor is the big dog, the biggest dog. End of story. No other artist can really touch the heights of even her floppiest of flops when it comes to sales or attendance. But when you're the big dog, your songs are going to be everywhere. People may get tired of hearing it, hearing about the artist in general, and if you're not already a Swiftie, you may be confused as to why some people lose their shit over her music in either direction. She's either the greatest poet in the history of the planet or literally a Nazi. Wait, what? Point is, since she's at the top, the general public may assume that her work has just evolved to such an exceptional quality, when in reality, her last album, pretty decent pop album, had some fun songs on there. I didn't really think about Travis Kelce's Member before that album, and now I do, so there's that. But others feel shafted because they're not hearing what the legions of her fans are hearing, so maybe she doesn't deserve the accolades. And in that same breath, I think we can focus on more of a rising star, Sleep Token. I'd say Sleep Token is just Kiss with all the makeup and characters, but there seems to be, I don't know, infinitely more effort put into it. When you're listening to Sleep Token, you don't know whether you're listening to metal, R&B, alt-pop, or the score to a cyberpunk folk horror movie. It's not my favorite thing ever, but I appreciate that they're experimenting with all these sounds and genre blending and attracting new listeners to metal while being pretty unique. And surely, that opinion will suffice for all the metalheads watching this video. Yeah, it really does seem like a lot of metalheads felt personally attacked when this shit started rolling out. When Sleep Token was really coming up a few years ago and all the TikTok girls caught wind of it, there was really no going back for them. Somehow all this new clout for Sleep Token took away all the clout that rightfully belonged to real metal.
This isn't wrestling!
So therefore, bad. Bad music can be just that. Terrible. And my favorite example of blatantly terrible music still has to be the Shags. The Shags were basically a vanity project for this guy who organized his 3 daughters into a band without hardly any training whatsoever, and the result is exactly what you'd expect.
My pal's name is Football, he always likes to drum.
It's music, there's instruments that make sounds, but to call it good is like calling J.D. Vance a man of integrity. But they tried. And that's more than what a lot of people are capable of. At best, it's novel and creates this kind of cultish legend around it, and you can hear the authenticity and effort if you need even the lightest level of appreciation. This is opposed to records that were intentionally made to be terrible, and with that, I think we need to talk about everybody's favorite musical shitpost, Trout Mass Replica by Captain Beefheart. Hearing any song off of this record might make you think that it's just as bad, if not worse, than the Shags, but actually, it's suspiciously lauded as a landmark album. Beefheart poured hours and hours, days and days, weeks and weeks, perfecting the sounds and compositions of utter shit to make this album. So I guess in the sense that it was an intentional move to make it sound like that, it serves as a proto shitpost, and all the blowhards love it solely because of that fact. But in pure candor, it can just be the authenticity, the novelty of these works that gives them all the credibility they need. Pure human expression doesn't have guidelines, nor does it demand conformity. And that resonates with people, perhaps even on a deeper level than any song off of 21 by Adele or some insane 15-minute epic composition by Pink Floyd. And this is exactly why I protect bad music like it's J.D. Vance protecting the public image of immigration enforcement officers. Trust me when I say that I get off on my own superior music taste like any other music chat or record collector. OK Computer, genius masterpiece. Random Access Memories, probably the greatest thing ever made. But, and I think a lot of us can agree with this, some of the music that I hold closest to my heart, well, it isn't getting great ratings on Pitchfork. For example, I am perpetually evangelizing the name of ska, specifically third wave ska.
God defines who I am as a person, and I will never turn my back on ska. Ha!
For the uninitiated, ska is a wide umbrella term used to describe a genre and subgenres of music that served as the foundation for reggae. It ended up catching some wind on the whole punk thing that was happening in the UK and the US. It's just nerdy shit, juvenile, childish even. I don't claim in any capacity that groups like Real Big Fish, Mustard Plug, or even close ska bands like the Aquabats should be taken seriously, because it's not the goddamn point. Looking around the genre, everyone is kind of all in on the joke. And when you're 16 and going to your first ska show, you may finally feel accepted because everyone there likes the exact same shitty music that you do. Kind of bouncing off the reggae vibe, 311 is another band that gets shit talked on a lot, but I adore them. They kind of fuse reggae, rap, and rock in this weird kind of amalgamation. I've seen them live twice, and I want to go back as soon as possible. It is the furthest thing that any guy who's writing his screenplay in a coffee shop is listening to, but it is exactly what the performative male you just started dating is listening to. He hates Clarosis. I'm sorry, he's just trying to hit. Another band I more recently started eating up is Limp Bizkit, and honestly, these guys deserve their own video, especially in the case of their rise, fall, and rise again. Because when I was growing up, it seemed like you always got made fun of for listening to Limp Bizkit, or it was perfectly acceptable to make fun of Limp Bizkit. Fred Durst is cringe, but all of a sudden, the TikTok kids pulled this band's career out of the ground, and now it's lame if you don't like Limp Bizkit. Growing up, I was a wrestling fan, I still kind of am, and Rollin' by Limp Bizkit was The Undertaker's theme song for a minute, but I almost had to hide in the closet and listen to it. But now, you know what? Fuck you. I like Limp Bizkit, and I don't care who knows it. Maybe those pop punk kids in the 2010s had a point. Maybe we should defend and even gatekeep our shitty music tastes. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, let us stand hand in fucking hand as we all collectively relish in our shitty music tastes. Oh, what's that? You're getting into MGK? Name every person from Cleveland. But I can't do this alone. I'm selling Gatekeep shitty music and Gatekeep bad music shirts right now. Go click on the links in the description. This is not a joke. And this is all in an effort to make sure that no pretentious dickhead gets into our music when and if it ever gets cool again. With all that said, I've been Jerry Bees. You've been awesome. Take it easy.